And is on the verge of, he's a week from his execution. The killer comes forward with a written confession and says, I did it.
Okay, on that note,
he was executed anyway.
I have to take a break. We are going to give you an opportunity to tell us what you think about this situation. Do you think it's vengeful to have the death penalty in place? Or do you think that, as Sadie pointed out, there are some crimes for which it is the only true punishment? If you want to tell us what you think, you can email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. We'll be back right after this. Is it time for the end of death row? It's time, for one thing, to find out what you think about all of this. If you want to join in our discussion, I'm going to pose a couple of questions and then you can tell us what you think. Does the death penalty, in your opinion, serve any purpose anymore, or would we as a nation be better off to abolish it? Do you think it's a waste of money to keep inmates on death row with years and years of appeals, or would it make more financial sense to give them full mandatory life sentences? If you want to tell us what you think, you can email me directly. I'm at lynn@lynndoyle.net. As always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and this show and others are on YouTube. We got a tremendous response to our question on Facebook, so let's check in with some of your responses right away. Jay said, I don't think the death penalty is good public policy. It's too fraught with mistakes. The inevitable appeals process is expensive, and it doesn't act as a deterrent. For the gravest of crimes, I'd give him life. James, though, disagrees. He says, I believe it should be enforced and carried out or removed from the slate. For me, it's not about deterrence of the next guy. It's about making sure this guy never becomes a repeat offender. And Kevin thinks it's simple. Keep it, use it, and do it faster. No such thing as a deterrent. Prisons are already overcrowded at the taxpayers' expense. As I said, we'd love to hear from you, so go ahead and start emailing or find us on Facebook right now. I want to get some reaction to that. People bring up the cost, and one of our viewers has done that as well. When we did the research on how much it costs to keep someone on death row for as many years as someone like Mumia Abu-Jamal has been, it is staggering. Why can the state justify spending millions upon millions when you could just simply put them behind bars for a mandatory life sentence and save money?
But you know what? It's like saying, I killed my parents and now I'm an orphan. These people committed a heinous crime. They were represented. They were convicted. And trust me, in Pennsylvania, it's very difficult to convict somebody and get the death sentence because the law here is very specific with regard to mitigating and aggravating factors. But then, because you have an appeals process, which is just run amok, you can stretch it out for 30 years. If you just had your state appeal and your direct federal appeal, we're not talking about millions of dollars.
But when
we're talking about
what if you're wrong?
I was going to say, when Lynn and Mike turn around and say to you, but wait, the fact that one innocent man might have been put to death, or woman,
is too much.
How do you argue that point, that it's okay?
But wait, Lynn, the cost factor. Okay, the cost factor. New Jersey alone since 1983 has spent an extra $256 million on prosecuting death penalty cases rather than putting people in jail with life without parole. That's the difference between the two, $256 million. Our government has never been any good at spending our money. But imagine if you took $256 million and gave it to the victims of the families of the victims for counseling and for all of the recompensation that they would deserve.
There's a better use of the money.
There's so much better uses of the money. Imagine if you'd taken some of that $256 million and put it back into the communities where the homicides are happening so that you actually prevent the killings rather than having the government just undertake another killing.
We're not talking about
$256 million.
We're not talking about a good kid having a bad day. We're talking about bad people doing bad
Then
stuff.
put them in jail and keep them there.
And let me ask you something. Then do not we have situations, if you said before, Lynn, you wouldn't want to spend your life in a hole, and I agree with you. However, in that hole, you can get your GED, get your college degree, and if you get real lucky, Lynn, maybe they'll come in and they'll tape you for a show like Scared Straight, and you'll become a mini celebrity.
But that shouldn't happen.
But then you're talking about redoing the entire penal system.
Yes,
and I'm not saying
absolutely right.
I'm not saying we shouldn't take a good hard look at our penal system. But that $256 million, Mike, that New Jersey spent, if, as Paul said, you're convicted, you have your state appeal, you have your direct federal appeal, and then you're done. What would the numbers be?
You know
Here's
what,
the problem.
though,
Wait a minute,
Sadie?
here's the problem, Sadie. Who is representing these people? The 17-year-old kid you're talking about who went into a store and killed somebody. Who can he afford to hire?
Let me tell
Not
you. Let me tell you. Oh,
not
that's
him.
the
You know
wrong
what?
argument to make in this city, and I'll tell you why. There's nobody, and I say this with all due respect. There's a bigger pain in the neck to try a case against than the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office. They have countless investigators. They are outstanding. They are as tough as they come. And since they have been representing defendants on homicide cases starting in 1990, well, you got to get homicide, 1995, they have been extremely effective. So to suggest that these poor innocents are going to jail and being led astray by bad lawyers is simply not true.
I'll agree with you 100% there here in Philadelphia.
And I'm no fan of the PD's office. So.
Here in
That's Philadelphia.
here in
How about Montgomery County, in
Philadelphia,
Delaware
it's
County?
not just PDs that are doing the death penalty cases. They're also court-appointed
Sure there are.
private attorneys. They're highly trained, and Philadelphia is an exception. The lawyers in Philadelphia that are doing this work are highly trained and fantastic. But Sadie, it really is at times about a good kid having a bad day. And the problem is with the system that we have today, it is not racially applied. So the good black kid that has a bad day and kills somebody is 5 times more likely to get the death penalty than a white kid.
Assuming it's a death penalty qualified jury.
Another problem with the death penalty, it is not racially equal.
I agree
it is
with
not
you.
cut across.
I absolutely agree with you.
If a white person is killed, 80% more likely that the murderer, who's black, will be executed than the
But
white.
you know what, though?
Or
I'll
if the
say
black
this.
kills the white.
Again, I don't know.
They're more likely if the black kills the white. People who
can't-
kill white people are more likely to be executed.
I can't speak about anyone else who has anyone on death row, but the people I put on death row, their victims all had something in common. They were all looked just like their killer. They all happened to be black. Race had nothing to do with it. What had to do with
That's
it was
unusual.
That's
unusual.
that's racist. That's
unusual.
racist in and of itself. I'm telling you what the nationwide statistics
Well,
are.
we're talking about. I'm talking about personal experience.
And the nationwide statistics are that if you kill a white person, you're 80% more likely than get the death penalty than if you kill a
And
black
Mike,
person.
some would say that the previous district attorney in Philadelphia County was death penalty happy. But what I'm suggesting to you, and I'll speak about the Philadelphia metropolitan area, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this, Paul.
I certainly
think-
wouldn't agree with the previous
I
district
think-
attorney was death penalty happy because I worked for her.
I know
for
you
8
work
years.
for her. I know that.
So
And
I wouldn't
didn't.
agree
I
with
hope
that.
I didn't offend you, and if I
No,
did, I'm
not
sorry.
offended at all.
But the bottom line is this: to find a death penalty qualified jury is no mean feat, and that 17.
Sadie, wait a minute. Death penalty qualified. The jury, first of all, is supposed to be a cross section of our community.
Absolutely.
But guess what? You can't be on a death penalty jury if you don't believe in it. So the only people that you're getting on a death penalty jury are the ones that are in favor of killing people.
But you still
It's not a fair
You still
system.
have to have the aggravating factors, and Paul can speak to that with regard to his personal
it's
experience.
even different. In Pennsylvania, I had to prove an aggravating factor beyond a reasonable doubt to every juror. In order to have a mitigating factor, you needed only one juror could find a mitigating factor by a preponderance of evidence, and guess what? Game over.
Okay,
So
we
that's
have-
a whole different situation, and it is to suggest that you have these death-qualified juries, these people with blood coming down their mouth, ready to hang people. That's just
not what
not
he's saying.
real.
But let me just say one other thing. Eyewitness testimony is largely used in many of these cases. It is almost impossible for a white to identify a black and vice versa, or a black to identify an Asian. The statistics are that cross-race
sure.
identification
No.
is almost, Sadie, that one, I'm telling you, it is almost impossible for cross-race identification.
It's a big problem.
It's a
Sadie.
major,
You know that.
major
You know
problem.
that
Listen,
out there.
friends,
Cross-racial identification, whether it's white to black or black to Chinese or black to Spanish, whatever it is, cross-racial identification
almost impossible.
is fraught with
It
problems.
goes beyond
There's new cases
race.
down out of the Supreme
Well,
Court of the
that's true.
United
So
States
if a person from
shooting
a
them
different,
down.
so basically what you're saying, let's take that out.
Yeah.
So if a white person kills a black person, we can't prosecute him because we're going to have a bad idea, and vice versa.
No, that's not what I'm
That's
saying.
not what we're
I'm
saying.
saying what I'm saying is the death penalty's wrong. The government should be in the position of killing people, and one of the problems is that we rely on cross-racial identifications, which scientific studies that nobody can dispute say it's a big
impossible.
problem.
Okay, on that note, I have to